Hey, welcome back to the Hometown Hustle podcast. And today, Dan Doyle and I are talking to Chris Martin and Sam Terrell of the Martin Outdoor Property Group. Now, Chris and Sam are not only incredible real estate brokers, but they are incredible men. And this episode isn't so much about real estate as it is about the desire to do better and be better. Now, I'll let Chris and Sam introduce themselves, and then we will get right into this powerful conversation. Let's get to it.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. I'm super pumped to have you guys here. You were one of the first people the first real estate brokers I ever thought of having on this podcast. And so this has been a long time coming. So I've been doing this for a while. So happy to have you here. And Sam, I got to meet you, last year when we were at in Bonanza.
Yeah, had a blast.
It is super fun. We can talk about that later if you want, but just super glad you're here too, because just really enjoy you and this is gonna be fun to have you. So without further ado, Chris, if you just want to just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and we can go from there. And then Sam, we'll get you afterwards.
Sure.
Sound good?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I'm Chris Martin. Oh, where do I start? How do I even, where should I even go with that? That's a very broad question.
Farm and ranch extraordinaire.
Farm and ranch extraordinaire, yeah.
Stretching a little bit. But no, I guess quick background. Obviously, I'm in real estate. I'm a broker. I started back in 2000, I guess it was 8, I think technically I got licensed, and then started working for Nancy in around 2010, Nancy Venuti, which I'm sure you've talked about.
Yeah, we have.
Listening,
Yeah.
It's going to be familiar with that name.
Yeah, so, for those who don't know, Chris, when I first got my license, I started working for Nancy Venuti, and Chris was,
we had like 6 months of overlap, 3 months of overlap.
Yeah, not a lot.
Something like that.
Not a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so I learned a lot of what I would say my business systems, business know-how, a lot of it came from Nancy. Mm-hmm. I do have a marketing degree, which I think was probably the big difference between Venuti and what they were doing and what I wanted to do. In addition to the fact I was just a total, country boy, grew up in that lifestyle, that vein, hunting, fishing, outdoors, animals, just the whole thing. And that's kind of the opposite of what much of the Venuti business was, which was a great business model and a great business, but didn't fit me well.
Which is very much my business model.
Yeah.
So don't insult me.
Yeah, what do you do, man? Well, that's the thing. We could spend a lot of time in this podcast talking about understanding one's own lane and one's strengths and weaknesses, and then the whole conversation about competency in those different lanes, because there's so many different sectors of real estate. You can get a real estate license and sell anything,
right?
But the reality is you shouldn't be able to sell anything just with a real estate license.
For sure, yeah.
So, but anyway, background. So I switched gears in 2015 to focus on the niche that Land Leader basically covers, which is just rural, in general rural. Within rural, is farm ranch. Within rural is 5 acres and a house on a river. Within
Lifestyle
rural is
properties.
waterfront. Yes, it's very much it's not residential based. It's land based. So that from 2 to 2,000 acres is kind of what I joke, because that's kind of our spectrum right now of projects. We have stuff that's a couple acres, and we just put one in escrow that 2,000 acres. So,
Awesome.
That's the spectrum. So since 2015, Wes and I started the team. 2017, I believe it was, and I took a lot of what I learned, from Nancy and from the Gary Keller model and different things, and have been trying to tweak it to fit, that hybrid that we do, which is more or less a hybrid between commercial and luxury, which I think is probably the best way to describe, selling ranches or selling, rural property is that. Hybrid. You need luxury marketing capability, and you need an understanding of a property type that would be reminiscent of like what's expected in commercial real estate, like if you're a CCIM or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. So from 2017 to now, I think it's just been a kind of an evolution of growth. I feel like I've grown, 500% over that period of time, just mentally, and just what I'm understanding of transactions and people and relationships, and it's becoming more and more about people and relationships than it is transactional knowledge, is the area in the last couple of years been, a lot of the growth that we've seen, and realizing that, you can be the best attorney, the best realtor, the best whatever, the engineer in the world, but if you don't have good relational skills, good people skills, like, you're gonna struggle in business. So
Do engineers have good personalities?
Good question.
every now and then,
Dan, are you insulting engineers now again? First it was car salesmen, and now it's engineers.
No.
I thought you pick on doctors or lawyers.
I
first,
love
but-
engineers on my side because they're very like me, where they're just very mathematical, and it either makes sense or doesn't, and you can go from there. So
Well, we had a mastermind the other day with a team from up north. That was kind of fun, doing in the same niche that we are in. And one of the things I took away from they were without a doubt better at systems than we are, better at just being consistent within what they're doing, almost to the point of it becoming a challenge that they were discovering. The last few years for me, I think becoming more nimble or flexible in my business has been a huge aspect. Like just walking into an appointment with a very open mind and going, I don't know how I'm going to do this appointment. I know what my goals are, but I don't care what order I accomplish this in. I'm going to build a relationship. And I'm still going to get the information I need. And then just being able to go to where the person is or where the corporation is or whatever it is, like you name it, being flexible has been huge. So anyway, back to kind of the background. I guess fast forward to where we are today. I've got a sales group of 4 salespeople here in Southern Oregon. And we have 2 salespeople, including Sam, in other parts of the state. Sam's in Bend. Evan is in Northeast Oregon, Baker City area. Evan and Sam are attempting to kind of replicate in their markets what we are doing here. So they're having to cut their teeth, learn get all the lumps and bruises along the way.
It's a good time.
But, especially Bend market, that's brutal. That's like walking into a boxing ring with somebody who's got your number.
yeah,
Yeah.
So-
Well, I mean, the Bend market is, primarily dominated by Brian Ladd at this point.
It is, but
Yeah.
the thing is, there's not that many more transactions than transact here, and there's so many more brokers. Like it's cutthroat. I mean,
Yeah.
how many brokers?
Yeah,
have
like when I
dropped out?
first started, I think I looked up the number and it was like 5,500 or 6,500 brokers total. Wow. In Bend proper.
Which is not a hugely different marketplace
No,
in Southern Oregon. We have
correct.
like 1,600 or 1,800 or whatever
Yeah.
the number is.
I would imagine that there's, like our market too, there's like the top 15, 20% are doing the majority of the business.
100%. So you see a lot of the same names over and over again, both in, across niches, right? Like in the rural sphere or the rural sector, in the residential sector, commercial the same way. But, it's funny. Like I sent out a mailer to a bunch of different agents this past Thanksgiving. And from when I started about 4.5, 5 years ago to now, we're back down to like 2,200 agents or 2,500 agents. So, the attrition rate of 4,000 individuals over the course of 4 years is pretty astonishing in my mind. I
Right.
mean, just to kind of show how things have changed out there.
Yeah.
So it's still saturated, but at the same time, it's nowhere near as bad as it was when I first got out there.
Wow. Yeah. Well, let's back up a minute.
Sure.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm
he's one of the 2,200 left.
Yeah, I'm like one of the last ones remaining. Yeah. No, my name's Sam Terrell. I'm a broker on Chris's team, live and work out of Bend. And my journey to real estate was it was an interesting mistake that I grew up around parents that were, they bought and resold homes, did a lot of remodeling. My mom was a designer. And so we were always in and out of houses. I never lived in a house longer than about 2 years until I was probably, 15, 16, moving constantly.
Sounds a lot like me. Yeah.
Yeah, almost military family, but it was showbiz, so entirely different kind of stakes. But so I grew up around a lot of real estate, and when I was in college, I studied international environmental policy, went to gunsmithing school, became really familiar with.
Get that straight. Gunsmithing school in Berkeley.
So I graduated high school, and the deal I made with my parents was, hey, if you let me go to this gunsmithing school and get my quote-unquote man degree is what I called it. If you let me get my man degree, I will return the favor with a 4-year. So I was one of the younger, I think I was the youngest person admitted to the gunsmithing program at the time. And I was right around 17, 18 years old, did a 2-year apprenticeship at Yavapai College in their master gunsmithing program, graduated, came away with a bunch of appreciation for not only firearms and how they're made, but also ended up working with guides and Arizona Game and Fish, and became really acquainted with management policies. And I took that outdoor fascination and channeled it into my 4-year degree. And so at Cal, because I went to a city college before that and studied political science, and then when I went to Cal, I studied international environmental policy and rangeland science. science. And so I had that background just from an interest standpoint. I then started a business called Bubba Box with my dad, where we built and manufactured shipping container homes specifically for outdoor recreation. So hunting camps that could be put up anywhere and survive any kind of inclement weather. Wow. And so we built them in Southern California and mostly sold them in the Gulf states. And so we took that from concept to proof of concept to starting selling units. And then my dad passed away. And at that point I was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. So I liquidated that company and reached out to a mentor friend of mine. He was like, hey, you got a fairly gregarious personality. You're fun to be around. I would look into getting your real estate license. And I said, okay. And so at that time, my fiance, who I'm marrying on the 21st of this month, October.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a miracle he made it down here.
Yeah, I know, right? Got to push it all into this last week.
Yeah.
But we decided to move to Oregon, moved to Bend, fell in love with Bend, got my real estate license, and then I was looking around for brokerages, and I opened up the hunting and fishing regs, and there was an advertisement for land leader. So I called the office and said, hey, I'm a new broker, just got my license. And they're like, great, join the team. So,
I love people and I love houses, or I love ranches.
I love ranches. I love hunting and fishing. What can I do for you? And so I started with land leader. And I was there for about 6 months, and I wasn't getting the mentorship that I wanted and needed. And Chris was, kind enough to reach out and say, hey, I'm starting to expand. I'm going to offer some mentorship opportunities. Would you like to join the team? And I said, yes, please. That sounds incredible. And so now I've been on the team for 4 years, I think.
You're going to have to tell me.
Yeah, since halfway through 2018, so 4.5 years working on my principal broker's license now. But it's been a wild ride. I mean, going from brand new broker in a super saturated market through a wild ride of market conditions to now where, lucky for me, I've cut my teeth, still cutting my teeth, but things are settling in to a very, if not comfortable place, but there's a cadence to it. And there's some repeatability there and brand recognition, name recognition.
There's some cool properties he's been able to transact here in the last little bit, like Gooseberry was a
Gooseberry Ranch
3,000
was
acre
really cool.
ranch, and a couple other ones.
And Nighthawk, which was like a really cool property that had a home on it, 50 acres adjacent to public land, but also could be improved with multiple dwellings. Like there's been some really cool opportunities out there.
Neat.
Yeah, it's been interesting too, because you've been more of a listing broker right out the gate too. So it's just little differences. Just
most people go into the buy side, kind of learn and say this is for the birds and go to listings at that point. So
no, definitely off the starting blocks was like a listing game for me. The buyer pool has actually grown significantly more now, so it's definitely an inverse of the usual presentation, but it's been awesome.
With every good listing, you're supposed to get like 3 good buyers out of it, right?
That's the hope, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it's different for you.
I don't know if that's inaccurate. That might be a little bit of a wives' tale.
I might agree with you, even in my space in the residential market, but
that was maybe prior to Zillow.
Prior to Zillow, probably.
I'd say prior to Google.
Right.
Let's call it what it is. It's not just Zillow, it's Google, because Google, there's 1,000 players that are all scraping for those dollars.
Right.
Yep. No, that's true.
From us.
Yeah. So no, it's I'm just going to back up a little bit. You guys have talked a lot about like the farms and ranches and being like in hunting and fishing. And obviously, I mean, for those who don't know Chris, I mean, you're an avid outdoorsman. You just got back from Alaska from an amazing, hunting trip, and we don't need to get into that.
Why not?
Yeah, I know that's what probably what you'd prefer to talk about. There's already a really long podcast on Chris's trip. You can go check that out. No, I do want to talk about that niche market, but I want to preempt it with when I first met you, Chris, at the Venuti Group. You had like this way about how you communicate with people, and I always just found your nature just like a very calming nature, and you're just like a natural leader, and so it doesn't surprise me that you've built the team that you have, and I just want to give you the respect that you deserve on that, because I think it's astonishing what you've done, and I just want to like also preempt this conversation with the fact that I really believe that you and your group are like the cream of the crop, at least in Southern Oregon, because I don't know what other people are doing in other parts of the state, because I just don't pay attention to that. But I don't think there's a better all-around real estate broker than than you and your team. Like I really firmly believe that. And
Is Remac's going to fire you for?
I don't care.
Danny, don't forget to cut out that name.
No, I don't think that there's anybody that does it better than you. Like
Well, thank you.
Well, from start to finish, like
We are not perfect. Let's just get that clear.
Well, I think
But I think that's part of why you're as good as you are, is because
Exactly.
you understand the fact that you're not perfect. And so everything becomes an evolution of how to do it better continually.
Right.
Like people think that once you just set it and forget it and it's done, and that's the beginning of death in your business and going, and always being willing to understand where your flaws are, reinvent it, do it better continually, probably pisses off everybody around you, but that's the drive that makes you the best.
All I see is the flaws most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the humility in you, and that's just, I mean, that is one of the reasons why you are as good as you are, and I respect you greatly, and I'd like to get into, we don't have to talk about the niche market at this point, but because I think that is a huge piece to why you are as successful as you are, because you're not dabbling in all these different spaces. Like you know what you're good at, and you know what you want to do, and you live, you're selling the lifestyle that you live, which is, it's not exactly your tagline. What is your tagline?
Lifestyle we sell.
You live the lifestyle you sell. Yeah.
On the
that's
landlady
right.
side.
It's the
we
back.
live the
Yeah.
lifestyle we sell.
Yeah. So on the landlady side. So, but I just think that's part, it's just from my perspective, that's one of the reasons that makes you, one of the things that makes you great is your humility and your ability to look and constantly evolve. You've already mentioned that, it's my first core principle in my business is the Kaizen principle. It's just every day you're making constant continual improvements and trying to get better. And then one of the other ones is this, we operate with confidence and humility. We have confidence because our clients rely on us to know what we're doing, but you also have the humility to know where your flaws are and how to improve those. So I find that, it's one of the reasons I just really look up to you, is just, for those things. So,
All right. Well, enough with the
the
stuff.
right,
Don't
yeah.
make me feel
Right.
Yeah, don't start crying on me now, Chris.
I have no emotions.
We just told everybody you're a big tough hunting guy, so yeah. Don't start tearing up on me, buddy. All right.
Lovey-dovey episode.
Yeah, that's right. Come over here. I need a hug.
Tuck it out, boys.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So the practicality side of that is like, you have to have a passion for what you're doing to be able to have all these things. Like, what do you know what makes you strive every day to be able to do that? Because I think that transcends real estate, right? Just as a business owner, if you're not where you're supposed to be, if you're not where you want to be, then you're not going to have the passion that you have.
Well, I think you have to have some kind of burning desire for success, excellence, some combination, whatever adjective you want to use, to describe excellence. I think is the word I would choose. I think I forget what test I took. It was one of those personality, this, that, and the other thing. Leadership. I was at some leadership deal, and being motivated. Understand what your motivations are. Some people's number one driver is money.
Right.
Some people's number one driver is power. Some people's number one driver, and there's a whole list of things. If I remember correctly, mine came up with excellence, like just the pursuit of doing something well. It wasn't necessarily money. It wasn't necessarily power or success or accolades, but it was just doing a job well. And when I heard that, and it just, when you kind of get a little bit of chills and you go ding, 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 like, okay, that completely makes sense why, I make certain decisions that I make. Because trust me, when I say I probably leave a lot of money on the table, and I pay people, I think, really well within our group, and I try to be overly fair. And people say, "Well, you must be motivated by money if you're doing these." If you looked at how well I pay everyone, I don't think I'm motivated by money. But the excellence side, I think, is where it starts, and then knowing oneself. Like, yourself. A lot of different things have happened in the last few years that you have had to go out on a limb and go, you know what, my gut tells me, I know I need to make this change or do these different things. It was the same thing. Like, when I was working at Nancy's, like, logic said I should have gone nowhere. Like, making good money, had all these different things. Life was easy street in many ways. But I just had a desire to get out of norm, to be stretched, to push, and that's what led me to wanting to make a change, and then really wanting to work on something that I enjoyed. That's the other piece of it. So knowing that I was striving for excellence in what I wanted. That's how I was naturally motivated, knowing that I needed to be pushed. I needed challenges. I needed things. I needed a mountain to climb, or I needed something to go after. Really took the residential real estate for me wasn't the fit. And I knew I would have I was starting to burn out already early on. So if I was going to stay within that industry, I needed something that was a better fit for who I was. So it was kind of a self-discovery process of learning about myself and realizing that I needed something to go after. And it started off as marketing. And then it became property knowledge, and then it became team knowledge, and then it became industry understanding, and it's all kind of coming together. Well, it's crazy. I still feel like I've barely scratched the surface. We've done some cool stuff. We've sold some cool properties. We've built some really cool relationships, but the surface still, it feels like the pastures are still way greener out in front than they are. And I think that's part of like that entrepreneurial mindset that we get is we always are seeing the opportunity. We're always seeing the flaws and where we suck, but we're also always going, oh, well, we could do this. Look at the opportunity there. We can get there. And I think, I don't remember the exact question you asked to spur this series of conversation, but
why you do what you do and
the why,
striving for excellence.
Yeah, the why is understanding yourself, understanding what your motivations are, and then going, okay, well, I'm gonna go to that lane and then I'm gonna pursue it. So I've had some really awesome people that have come alongside or opened doors or stepped out of the way or done a bunch of different things that have made short-circuited some of the growth and learning opportunities. So there's that aspect of it as well for us that whether it's Garrett opening doors at Atlanta Wildlife originally and then Land Leader and the different things that have happened there, whether it's the stuff I learned from Nancy, the relationships with guys like yourselves, there's a huge aspect of camaraderie that I think also comes into play. You can't do life alone. Yeah. You can't be an island. Yeah. There's such strength in community, there's such strength in fellowship, and that's why the team thing works so well. I'm a team person. Team sports, team, social. I like people. But there's a lot of
most people.
I like the idea of people.
I don't always like.
Let's just be real.
My daughter, whenever we're getting ready to go out, and when she's with me for the day, she's like, "Do we have to people today?" Yes, baby girl, we got a people today.
Yes, to the introvert. Yes.
Yeah, we got a people. Well, going through on all the topics and where you're at and how you've developed all of it, the strive for excellence, is that the ultimate goal, right? I think that's fun when we take a look at it, because perfection is unattainable. And
Correct.
For those of us that try to do, we know that perfection can't happen, but I think that keeps the hunt fresh every day. It's always intriguing if you're always trying to make it better, and you can't get stagnant if you're always trying to make it better. I don't care what business model or where you're at, what sector, but I think those are the people. They love what they do, and they always have a passion to make it better for others, not necessarily for themselves. I think that's the distinction. When you're not money driven, when you're not power, when it's just excellence, it's for the benefit of others. And I think the marketplace sees that.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was talking about before we got started, is I just think that is one of the big differentiating factors between you and maybe just a regular real estate broker. We see it all the time. People just post whatever pictures, it doesn't matter. There's no thought process behind any of that kind of stuff. The fact that you are so meticulous about everything that you do and trying to get better and always trying to find a different way to get there or to get better or to do stuff different is the big difference. There's very few people that do that.
Well, I think it comes from understanding your market. It comes from understanding what is let me back up. The real estate, okay, I'm going to back up even further. So my biggest gripe with the real estate industry as a whole is there's zero barrier to entry. What's it take? 140-hour class and a background check?
Nothing. Yeah.
And at that point, then you're free to represent a multi-million-dollar transaction with millions of dollars of people's money, in theory.
Yeah.
That's the barrier to entry. It's nothing.
Right.
So that's the flaw in my mind with the industry. In the lending side, it's not that easy to get in. Appraisal, it's even harder. Attorney, doctor, all those things, way harder. All these, and honestly, when you're doing real estate at a high level, you're rubbing shoulders with attorneys, all the appraisers, all these different lenders that are more highly regulated and educated in theory than you are. So you kind of have this carte blanche to either get as educated, as intelligent, whatever you want to put, as you want, or to just skate by and do the bare minimum. And it's an industry that requires a certain degree of being self-driven, self-regulating, and that's where the camaraderie part of it, everything is hugely important. Rising tides. But so with that knowledge of what the industry is, like as a consumer, I would hate to be a consumer interviewing in the real estate industry. Like like, okay, I want to sell my place. Okay, great. How do I find, I know this person, he's my neighbor, or I saw this person on social media, or I see their sign everywhere, or whatever. But there's not an easy way to be like, okay, this person is really competent at what they're doing. And then to go from a simple, residential purchase to adding layers of complication with either rural or commercial or income property or RV park or whatever it is, as a consumer, how do you find the person who is going to be competent to meet that need, to be able to advocate for you and represent you on millions of dollars? A lot of people never see $1 million at one time in their life, yet as a brand new rookie person, you have carte blanche to just go help them spend their $1 million or $2 million, whatever it is. It's crazy that is the industry we work in.
Right.
But those are the cards, we're not going to change the industry.
No.
Likely. So that is, a lot of what I saw, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have no desire to just skate by. That's again, coming back to the motivation. So with that, when we were building the team and, when I started working at Landlear, and honestly, Nancy was great about it. I mean, everybody who got trained under her knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
There was competency, complete competency there.
And she may not have said it or claim that but I mean, she very much had the niche market. I mean, there is a niche market, and it was, single family residences and,
retired people.
Yeah, retired people. And I mean, but that single family residence in a certain price range, that was her bread and butter. There was things that we would do, and every once in a while she'd do maybe a commercial thing or here and there. But I mean, that was her thing. It was very much residential, and that's very much been my thing. Do you think that, what you're saying is these people have this ability to, pick whatever real estate broker that they want? Mm-hmm. Do you think that you're doubling down on farm and ranches? This is what we do. Do you think that that's helped you market yourself better to buyers and sellers in the market? So people,
it's been an easy transition for me because of just, enjoying connecting with that demographic automatically, just because of the way I grew up, the way, the life I choose to live.
I thought it's because you didn't want to wear dress shoes and you like Romeos.
Did I actually ever wear dress shoes?
I don't
think
so.
I actually ever did.
I think he was doing that with Nancy too. Yeah, I think he was still doing that. Yeah,
you're crazy.
A hat? Yeah. I didn't start wearing hats until Nancy moved to Arizona, so I made sure I was safe before.
She can always get on a flight.
Yeah, she can.
No, but I guess there's a lot of different ways to answer the question. Is it easier to brand yourself in a niche? Absolutely. Are there risks that go with that because you're branding yourself as a niche and you're saying no to business just by how you brand yourself? Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably dozens and dozens of residential transactions that we haven't gotten a phone call on because of how we branded ourselves. But at the end of the day, the volume of business and the flow is fine with me. So I feel like we've set ourselves apart, and that the trade-off is worth it for me. But it's not going to be worth it for every real estate broker who may not have the same both drive to want to succeed in a certain area, but also the same tolerance for just going all the time.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to get to the next level all the time, not trying to find cruise control. And until I decide I want to try to find cruise control at some point, Like there's a certain level of discomfort that goes with that business model because you are constantly trying to grow, trying to innovate, trying to do things differently. Whether it's from a marketing perspective or a sales perspective or from just systems in the background or just understanding, a new opportunity within the market. Like something changes in an ORS statute and we're on the phone with the attorney going, hey, what does this mean? Like, how can we interpret we just saw this code change for ADUs. Like, what does this mean? Can we do this? Or does this supersede CCNRs? Like, does this all of a sudden change how we can market when we see this particular property type come up? Like, does this mean that we have a loophole that we can take advantage of? And of course, those are the things that unless you're just engaged all the time, you're not thinking about, unless you're looking for opportunity for growth, looking for opportunity to differentiate your business or to bring added value to your clients. Like, it just kind of goes over your head.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish people would, we talked about the industry in itself. I wish there was more boundaries. Like, I wish you had to like get farm and ranch certified or, commercial certified. Cause it's like, you remember, I referred you that ranch on Merlin Galease Road. And, I remember Nancy was so pissed. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I'm not the right person for that property. Like, could I do it? Yeah. Could we do it? But that's not in the best interest of the client. Yeah. Like the best interest of the client is for Chris to do that. I mean, he's the guy for it, and it was just like, and it wasn't about the money for me. Like, I got a really nice referral check from you, by the way.
But your dollar per hour was great.
Yeah, my dollar per hour was terrific on that one. But I mean, I didn't do it because for the referral check. I did it because it was just the right thing to do for the client. Like, I could do it. I could have photos. I could put it in the MLS just like every other real estate broker. But that's not what those kinds of properties and what most of those. I mean, what most.
I would say it doesn't come down to property alone. You had said before, you choosing that niche meant that you really weren't able to get a lot of listings on other sides of it. I think that it comes down to the greater good that you can do. You were saying no to those dollars and cents by handing over that because you knew that it was going to be handled or done better. The problem is I don't think anybody goes and looks at it from the consumer's perspective. They don't look at it from everybody else for the benefit of the whole. I think that where it becomes the problem is everybody looks at it for the benefit of themselves.
Sure.
Well, take for example, in what we do, like we have a certain level of capacity for commercial, but we know our boundary. And I think that's a really good example in commercial. Like if it leaves the area of land centric, so like development ground, just anything, as soon as we're talking about having to reach some sort of niche market, like a retail group, a industrial, whatever, like I'm the first person to go, like a small warehouse, sure. Like we've got the capacity and the competency to deal with that. If one of my clients was wanting to sell an interchange property, and we had marketed it for a while, and we'd partnered with John Ford to help get some of the commercial pieces in, but neither of us really had the right market for that. And then, the next time around when we were going to talk about marketing, I'm like, you know what, we need to just refer that property out. An $8 million listing, like something that I would like to have the paycheck on, would like to have the notoriety from, all the things. But like I knew in my heart, in my mind, that like I was not the right person for that. So then I set about to try to put those pieces together and say, okay, well, we're either going to partner with someone from out of the area or whatever, and then their attorney ended up selling it for them in-house to the tribe. A whole nother conversation. Yeah. But the reality was that was the guy who had the connections, who could pick up the phone. And honestly, from that point forward, like it's kind of changed some of my perspective on some of the commercial stuff, because I do realize that we have a marketing product that the commercial is missing. So I've opened up the door with a couple of different attorneys in different places to go, we'll create the marketing. You guys figure out the sales connections and call everybody in your Rolodex and structure the deal, write the op. You do that. I'll take a marginal amount to create the marketing and still be involved if that's helpful. Right. So it's just knowing, like, I should not be navigating that transaction over there. I should not be navigating trying to find that particular buyer for that property and being like, you know what, it is what it is. Like, I'm not the right fit. I wish that was a requirement in the industry. That people, if they couldn't prove competency in a property type, that somehow the consumer had a better way to know that.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I said, when they're looking, I said, you can be told anything, and there's amazing salespeople out there. Show me what you've done.
Yeah.
Show me the 50 properties that you've sold that are similar to my property or have similar characteristics or complication levels or whatever it might be. Explain to me my water rights on my property. Explain to me my land use on my property. Explain to me when a buyer asks XYZ question. If a buyer says, can I build another home here? Explain to me how you would answer that question. I wish a consumer knew to say those things. And I would love to answer those questions because those are teed up perfectly for what we do. But that's what I try to do. I try to almost educate the consumer as I'm doing the marketing pitch. Like, you should be asking these questions. If you're not, you should be. And here, let me answer them for you. And then hopefully, if we're in competition, I've also educated them on what questions to ask the next broker, that they're also interviewing.
Yeah.
We had one yesterday. It was kind of fun. Between 100 and 200 acre property, farm ground, some vineyard, some outbuildings, no fancy house. And I walked up, met the people for the first time, and it turned out they were interviewing one of the top brokers in Jackson County as well. And he goes, I like you. You know why? You look like you could own this property. I was wearing boots and jeans, and, he goes, yeah, you look like you could walk up and talk to anyone. And as an owner of this property, you just look like you fit there. And I'm like, I didn't, just the simplicity of it, I was like, I didn't even cross my mind. I'm just lazy. I'm dressing how I normally do. But
You mean the bedazzled jeans and the fancy car from the other agent probably wasn't going to win it over?
Did I step in cow poo?
I mean, here's the deal. I knew who I was up against, and I have a ton of respect for that individual and really like that individual. But, the conversation I had, they said it, not me. They're like, I don't think he understands farm. I'm like, you know what? I said, there's a lot of things he does understand. He's great. And I ended the conversation with a little story about that broker where I was like, he did this for me at one point, and, like, I'll respect him forever because of this.
Yeah.
I said, but you're not wrong, what you've observed.
Yeah.
Like, he's a great class act person, but you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
I think people will respond to that well too. I've tried to not badmouth other agents and just talk with, in that sense, like they're good at this, and
I'll either compliment them or plead the fifth, basically. That's kind of where
that's a good way to put that. Yeah, I agree.
I'll either share a personal experience with them or whatever, or like, I really can't comment.
Yeah.
Sam, what's been your experience like coming in as a new broker and coming into this? I mean, you've not worked too heavily in the residential market. I mean, what's been your experience coming into this group and just learning all about the business from this perspective?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to put it in perspective, most people start out in residential in some capacity. My first deal was like a 640 acre piece out in Eastern Oregon. I mean, another one was in Southeast Oregon, about a similar size. So my first transactions were bigger, had certain levels of complication to them that were a little bit outside the normal scope. But as you've been listening to Chris outline his approach on the listing appointment, extrapolate that to how the coaching techniques work and the problem solving and out of the box thinking. And that was a download that I did not expect, but have been, and I currently am hugely appreciative for. Because without that, I mean, when you're dealing with properties like we deal with, if you don't have somebody basically priming you to say, hey, think about the property, think about the relationship with the person that's selling it, but also in the back of your mind, you need to be asking yourself these questions. And if you're not arriving to those questions, you're not thinking the process through effectively. And then you're not doing right by the person that you're representing. And it goes to that fiduciary, mentality. It's, I need to be asking the questions that sellers either already know and don't think to bring up, 2, haven't thought about before and need to ask, and then 3, I need to be a step or several steps ahead of either other brokers or the buyer. So that way when people come to the table, not only are they asking me questions that I have the answers to, but if I have an answer but I'm not an expert in that department, I have the contacts to refer them out to and say, hey, broad strokes, this is what you're looking at. I'm not an expert in X subject, but Dan is, or somebody is.
Right.
Here's their phone number, call them, hear from the horse's mouth, and then get back to me with what you guys have discussed. and let's dive deeper and see if this is actually a good fit for you.
Yeah.
Because there has to be a certain level of reciprocity in that fiduciary relationship, not only between the seller but the person that's coming to the table, because you don't want to do harm to anybody. You want to make sure that the deal is going to work out for everybody's benefit. So, I mean, that's been kind of like my starting block to build off of, in comparison to, and I'm speaking very honestly, I don't know what it's like working in an office, when you're paying a desk fee. It's just never been my experience. I haven't, I dress the way I dress because I like to, but I also, I can throw on Wranglers. There was one property that I sold and I had to help like bury like a dead calf and stuff like that. But at the same time, like I am also happy to go to a different type of meeting, suit and tie, and sit down and enjoy that space as well. So for me, what's kind of cool is that I get to live and work in Bend, which is a dynamic market like that, where you have everybody from the Romeo-wearing cowboys coming into town and saying, hey, I've got this piece of hay ground, what's going on? To, hey, I just moved from wherever, and we were renting this place, but we really want to find a place on the water. I like to fly fish. I like to hunt. I like to do this, and help curate an experience for people based on the knowledge base that Chris has helped me develop. But then also say, hey, like if you're really into fly fishing, I can show you where some really cool houses are. You have a little bit of property, but I can also show you around this area and like help you fall in love with it like I did, and go from there.
Yeah.
So, well, here's the reality. We helped Sam learn the transactional dance of real estate and some of the relational dances of business, but he's a natural people person. He's an outdoor person. He's all the stuff that's impossible for me to teach, like he has.
Right.
Like we can teach transactions, we can teach business, but all that relationship ability, all those like just taking people fishing, taking people hunting, taking people, hey, oh, you want to go check out this place? Hey, my friend has this awesome, sports bar or whatever it is. Like go say hi to Joe while you're down there. Just all those things. Like he's better than me by a long shot at that kind of like relational aspect of selling the area, being someone's friend, almost for lack of a better term, like connecting with them. He's better than me at that by a long shot. I have to fall back on the real estate knowledge to keep people to like me.
and that's why it's been so much fun working on this team, because face to face gets you a long way, but at the end of the day too, people want to trust you, and you have to have that transactional knowledge. And so that's it. It's been really fun for me to work on this as a career and marry those two sides together. And I just feel really lucky to be a part of the team, and to also be in a market that's like, even though Bend and Central Oregon market is tough, it's definitely an interesting place to be. What a great place to learn in. What a great place to build a business in, because it's honestly like if you can rise above all the the tumult. It's like, man, my hope is just be set for a long time. Yeah.
The way you've built your business is built to last because you did it the hard way, the slow way, grounded out. When momentum hits, as you're starting to see, momentum is going to carry for a long time the way you've done it, because you didn't take any shortcuts. I mean, that was the conversation.
That becomes the biggest challenge, and that's one of the questions that I was going to ask you is, even though you don't have the knowledge base of the other individuals, can you see yourself growing at a different rate or a different capacity than the others that started the industry with you? Because we rub elbows, regardless of whether you're working directly in the same office, you're still rubbing elbows with the same people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say, I think the short answer is yes. I mean, like, Chris, if we look at the marketing package itself, right? Take the transactional side away.
Right.
So we look at the marketing. Chris had built a marketing package that he sells to clients effectively, right? Like, hey, this is what your property is. This is all the stuff that I know about it. But when you decide to list with me, here's the deployment package for your property, curated for you and what you own. And so taking that and coupling it with my skill set that I was luckily interested in cinematography. I love flying drones. I love photography. I've been teaching photography from high school through college. So the display of the properties and the ability to say, hey, one, we have the relationship connection. We have a great team that supports us transactionally. But if you really want your property to be shown at the highest level, I'm the guy to do that for you, because I'll walk every corner. I'll film every inch of it, and I'll make sure that everybody who's looking at your property, I don't care if it's 2 acres or 2,000, they're going to understand that property tip to toe. And I'm willing to do more, if not even if needed, but just willing to do more, period, to make sure that I'm representing it to the best of my ability. Now, does everybody approach it like that? I don't know, but it's how I choose to approach it, how Chris has helped me facilitate the approach. And as a result, I think it sets you up for growth because people recognize a product that they want to have on their side while they're trying to move a property or acquire a property, depending on the side of the transaction they're on.
Well, it's been cool watching like Evan, Sam, myself, Alex, Ashley all take the baseline model and deploy it, to steal a word from you, little bit different ways to each of their strengths. I mean, Evan's third, fourth generation cattle rancher, he has a very different tact to engaging with people. He said, he leads with cows and property knowledge and just firsthand boots on the ground experience. He's as laid back as they get. He's going to connect with a different demographic, a different clientele, but it's the same baseline of marketing. Like he's handing them a very similar package saying, I'm going to do this for you. He may present it in a slightly different way, but he's in Baker City. He's got a way different market. Like he needs to be that laid back cowboy in Baker. Sam needs to be this gregarious,
Suavemente. look at the flow on this guy's hair. Jeez, dude.
It's that wedding haircut, bro.
Yeah, it's that wedding haircut. Hey, dude, I can already tell you're gonna look good, dude. All right. Yeah,
It's gonna be good.
But anyway,
rule number one, as Lacer says, Mike Lacer, rule number one is you got to look cool.
That's right.
which is actually hilarious coming from him. But
Yeah. So
Well, all those things that you guys put together and deploy, it's going above and beyond the average, right? When you said, I don't know if other people are doing this, no, they're not doing this, right? Otherwise, our stats would look a lot different.
True.
Going through all those different steps. I mean, Daniel, we talk about it all the time. Your podcast studio is amazing. The videos that you put out are amazing. Your guys' marketing package. All these things that we do behind the scenes that elevate our brand, that's really the difference maker. Like you said before, we can see the greener pastures ahead of us. That's why we're willing to let things go that are out of our wheelhouse and all of those things. But really the time and energy that goes behind the scenes and nobody sees, that's really the difference maker in the marketplace. I don't care what you're doing, what sector you're at is irrelevant. If you're not putting in the hours when nobody's looking, you're not getting the same results that you guys are getting.
no, and it's funny that you talked about like your motivation is excellence. I get motivated when I see something that's done poorly. I don't care what it is. Like if I see something that's being done poorly, I'm like, I think I could do that better.
No, he says this is shit. That's actually what happens.
He's not wrong. You're like, this is shit. I could do that better.
Right.
But yeah, there's. I've taken a lot from watching you and just seeing some of the stuff that you do, like the package that I go with to on
I've
listing.
noticed it looks eerily
Weird.
It's not copyrighted.
Weird.
Highest form of flattery.
Yeah. No, it's what is that? You hear that? No, I can't tell you. I could promise you that my stuff is not nearly as tight as yours, and it is looks as good as yours.
It's just because we've failed a lot more times than you in the past.
Yeah. and it's I'm not saying that it's less of a responsibility. I just think the properties that I inherently deal with there's just less to them.
Sure.
And so it doesn't require as much work in that regard. But I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a listing appointment with my package, and they're like, wow, we've never seen anybody that does anything like this. And for me, that makes me feel really good because it's just, I feel like I'm doing what's necessary to represent these people and doing what's right by them. And I can't tell you how crazy it drives me when I see a property that's listed for sale and it's a beautiful property and it's completely underrepresented. It drives me up the wall. And I'm upset that I don't get that opportunity to like go in there and like do that. But oftentimes, like, you and I have talked about this a lot over the last couple of years, is like choosing to work with the people that you want to work with. And I think that in the last couple of years, that's been a big differentiator in my business, is like letting go of some of the people that I don't necessarily want to work with and just choosing to move on and trying to work with people. People first, property second. Work with the people that you want to go and have lunch with, or that you want to go fishing with, or whatever. Like, work with the people that you want to go hang out with, and don't divvy from that at all. Right?
No, I agree. We have a saying: people first, property second. And even within our niche, it's still, we try to adhere to that. As we've grown, it's become, people first, but we're also still a little bit particular about the property as well.
Sure.
There's certain things about how we do things from a marketing setup perspective that, sometimes, it doesn't make sense to hire us. Like, because I'm not willing to flex out of what we do, flex out of our normal operations to churn and burn through properties. Like, someone needs their property live in a week and it's going to sell with multiple offers instantly, just because it's a good price and everything else. Like, yeah, we'll flex a little bit and, try to help them if it's someone within our sphere, but I'm not going to chase down, properties that are constantly having me flex out of what I normally do. I want to go back to something you said earlier just about, you've talked about marketing a whole bunch, and I think that deserves a little bit of a closer conversation, not about the specific products or how you do it. I mean, we do videos and 3D tours and brochures and all these different things, but just some basic principles about, marketing. When I go in and I'm just explaining to someone like how kind of real estate works, I often start with, the conversation, like you're going to be stuck with the broker you pick for the next 3, 4, 6 months, a year. So you better like them. You better feel like you can have an honest conversation with them. Like, that's the most important thing. And I also a lot of times will say, and by the way, I have to also feel like we're going to work well together as well. This is a 2-way interview. It's not a 1-way interview. And I'll tell people that on the front side. And then I'll have a conversation about the property type, and I'll go through and I'll just give some practical examples of like making sure that the broker understands the property. And I'll say there's a number of reasons why. One is so they're effectively marketing what is important about the property. They know who the buyer is going to be. One, it keeps you out of trouble. For example, if I say a property has water rights and you hand me the certificate, that's great. Do I have legal access to the point of diversion? Is the water rights actually any good? Is the water been used in the last 5 years? Like, there's this whole laundry list of questions that need to be answered. So understanding, and then, okay, great, I have water rights. Well, what's the difference between a water right gets regulated off every year in value and road river water with class 1 soils? Well, let me tell you, it's like $20,000 an acre difference between like dry land value and premium, depending on what it is, the scale of it. Those kinds of things I'll go through. I'll just lay out. I said, look, before we even talk about what the pictures look like or what anything else looks like you've got to understand there's a certain level of competency or knowledge that, who you're working with, they need to have in order to understand the value proposition, to be able to market it correctly, but also to be able to have a conversation with a buyer. Like, I'm the guy who's going to be talking to a potential buyer for this property. Like, if you're not confident in me in talking with yourself, that I understand what I'm talking about your property, how are they going to do any better? It's going to be worse when it's a buyer situation and they're getting grilled. So then I go through kind of the property knowledge and understanding piece, and then I go into marketing. And then the marketing's easy because I can just show them what we're doing.
Yeah,
and
that's
I can
easy,
say,
yeah.
put it up against anybody in the valley. I challenge you.
Right.
You may find some people who are coming close. You might find an occasional project that's on par or even a little bit better. But as a whole, you're not going to find a product that is more detailed, is better, visually appealing, and tells a more accurate story than what we do. And by the way, we also put it into these channels here that are like where residential marketing stops. We do all that, but then we start and do this whole litany of other things to reach the right buyer and to be able to put the right information in front of them. Is it perfect?
Because your everyday rancher is probably not searching Zillow every day.
Well, honestly, I don't know that, so I'm not going to neglect Zillow.
Yeah.
But if I'm getting frustrated by trying to sift through all the residential listings, I'm probably going to land on land.com, or I'm going to land on Landleader, I'm going to land on one of these different Land Watch, these different places. Anybody can pay to play. Like, the product differentiates you. Mm-hmm. Your checkbook is how committed you are. You know what I mean? Like, right. Your product, not everybody can create because they don't actually have the skill set or the knowledge base. The channels, anyone can buy who's a broker. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want to spend the money, you can buy them. Mm-hmm. We try to do that economically at Landleader because we're trying to do it at scale to make it more palatable. Land.com is still an absolute bear, but we won't get in. Mm-hmm. We're getting too far in the weeds.
Yeah.
But does that make sense, the approach? Like, it's the person the knowledge base, the understanding, and then it's the marketing product is the cherry on top.
But what I was getting at before, because all of those are good, but all of those things that you're doing are a time commitment.
Yeah.
That the average person isn't going to take the time and the dedication that they need. What is it? Malcolm Gladwell said you need 10,000 hours, right?
Yeah.
I'm well past that 10,000 hours, right? In the time and the energy to be able to do it. That I would say the differentiator between successful people and others is the time that they're willing to commit. If you only have 15 minutes to try to figure out before you're going to a listing on what information you need to get from that person, or how many hours ahead of time are you doing the research with the team to get the information that you need to have the questions to be able to pose all of those. I don't think a lot of people take the time and the dedication that it takes to even get to that point.
Correct.
That's the difference.
Correct. Yeah. If I didn't have the knowledge, the experience background, and I was walking into a property cold, say if I landed in Lakeview tomorrow to go look at a property, you know, if I would probably take every bit of 4 hours in front of my computer, 3 hours if it was a big listing appointment, not even joking, like maybe even a full day, depending on how important the listing appointment was, wouldn't move from my computer just to understand what was going on in that market, everything about the property. I'd be going through county records. I'd be getting told, well, probably not in Lakeview. I probably have to drive over there, but you know what I mean. In a market that I wasn't familiar with,
Right.
I would have to spend, hours to even be comfortable walking through that door to go talk to that seller.
Right.
Like that would weird me out if I didn't do that. I wasn't prepared. Like if it's in Medford and it's 200 acres, a nice house or whatever, like I can look at the map in a few minutes, pull the information together, look at it, maybe 15 minutes. Like I could probably get away with that.
Right.
But it's because of the last 10 years that I can do that.
Daniel, how much time do you think listing agents on average prep for a listing interview?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Gary Keller earlier. Like one of the Keller sayings is like the 3 Ps of real estate. It's like you put the property in the MLS, you put a sign in the ground, and you pray somebody sells it. Like that's a Keller Williams thing. I mean, that's probably, I'd say, what the majority of people do. They get the listing appointment, and maybe they like get their, maybe a little folder or something that, and then go over there and or not.
And I'm not digging anybody that doesn't take the time, right?
We are digging on people to take that aren't taking the time. The people need to take the time. This is a very serious business. If you are going to go represent somebody, whether it's a $200,000 piece of junk or a 200,000 acre piece of property, like you are working for those people. You need to take the time to prepare yourself and get ready. And that's the whole point of
like that's going to get you to excellence. Like if people are sitting there in the marketplace and they don't understand why they're not moving the needle or doing whatever, because you're probably not committing the time that it takes to get to operate at the level that you need to be able to hang in this.
Absolutely. Right. And it kind of goes back to like asking yourself the question, like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this then? Mm-hmm. And I think that, it's like in any industry.
Because I like people and I like houses.
Exactly. And hey, that's fair. That's a valid response. But okay, how far does that go?
Right.
Like how far do you take that? Do you value people enough to really put the time in to understand who they are and where they're coming from?
Money.
In what capacity?
No, what you're saying is money.
Oh,
like,
sure.
You're spot on. Do you value people?
Yeah, do you value people and what they're trying to accomplish, where they're coming from? Because at the end of the day, too, we're representing an individual in addition to that property. So we have to understand who that person is. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, I like houses. Great. How much do you like houses?
Right.
Do you live and breathe the design? Do you live and breathe the entitlements, access, all that stuff? Like, how much do you like them? How willing are you to commit to that mentality?
Yeah.
And, it's like kind of talking about the preparation stuff, like.
Man, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say that as good as you just said it, Sam.
Yeah.
Like, I love people and I love houses. Okay, how much actually do you? Because the product that you put out shows me that you don't like this person at all and you don't like this house at all.
Exactly. Like the blurry sideways cell phone photo is not doing this property justice.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't tell me you like property. Don't tell me that because it's clear you don't. So then it's like, all right. So then when you go back to when you look at yourself in the mirror, right? That's the end all be all every single day. It's like you look at yourself in the mirror and you see yourself and you go, I'm calling you on your BS. I'm on to your stuff. Let's improve here.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes a certain type of individual. I would say all 4 of us are that type of individual that are willing to challenge ourselves in front of ourselves rather than challenging ourselves in front of our peers only, or allowing ourselves to exist in a certain level of comfort, like we were talking about yesterday. That creates a certain level. I keep saying certain level, but comfort leads to stagnation. And certain individuals are willing to exist in a comfort zone and stagnate. Where others, even when we see comfort coming, we're like, hey, this is nice, but this means something needs to change. Or I need to work harder because if this is comfortable, I need to get to the next level. And that comes to a personal drive and desire thing. And whether it's excellence, whether it's simply just like, for me, I don't know if it's a pursuit of excellence. I just don't want to be found lacking. So maybe it's like an inferiority complex. Like I don't want to walk in, like I don't want to walk in a room and feel like I flubbed it and walk away and be like, that guy was really nice. This is really cool. And that was on me that I lost out on that opportunity. Because, there's no such thing as luck, right? It's preparation and opportunity. And if you don't prepare, but you have the opportunity, you're going to lose out and you're going to call it unlucky. But if you prepare, have the opportunity, and you still miss out, well, maybe you were lucky in that regard because that wasn't the person you're supposed to be working with anyway.
That's actually my 10th core principle, is to do everything with intentionality. Because if you don't, like, you're just leaving it up to chance.
Exactly.
Like if you do everything to take everything into control, you do everything intentionally, you'll less likely that it's just going to fall into chance's hands. So it's just, I completely wholeheartedly agree.
Well, Chris said being uncomfortable, right? And always not, like, you have to have some level of uncomfortability all the time. You made, recent life changes that probably were pretty damn uncomfortable. Like, I think that's probably the biggest differentiator, is just I'm willing to be uncomfortable every day in an effort to make the process better. Because if you're stagnant, you're dying. I've always believed that. So I don't want to die. I want to be better. I want to live.
So I got a first row seat this morning on being uncomfortable and growing. So I think it's the best word picture you can ever describe, is like either working out or some variation of deep tissue, like massage. Like, seriously, I spent 2 hours with the boys Julian over at Nova Sauna, and I almost puked this morning. Like, the pain was legit. But all I could think about was, this is going to have a benefit. I am going to feel better afterwards. This is going to totally, like, my legs, as bad as they hurt right in that moment, next week, like, this is going to be game-changing, because we just discovered a spot that hurt 10 times worse than I expected. Didn't even realize it was there. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's probably affecting all these other things. And I was excited, horrified at the same moment as I realized how painful it was. But my mentality towards that discomfort or that growth opportunity is so much changed in the last few years that I think that's the crux of we make decisions. Why do we make decisions? I think that's a big question. What is your motivation for making a decision? Why? Understanding that, and you're going to unlock a whole, it might be scary. You may discover some things about yourself you really don't like. I know I have. I've discovered, like, man, I am lazier than I would ever admit. Like, but it's true. Like, I'm just admitting it now because it's the truth. I make way more decisions based on trying to be comfortable than I ever should. Like, it's the lazy, like, our nature, our human core carnal nature is to be comfortable and lazy and all these different things. And, depend on how you view, creation and where you come from, and like all those different things that have to do, with God. For me, I realize that, I believe in a creator. I believe that we are imperfect. I believe that we have to make decisions to consciously make the right decision. I don't believe we're innately good because of, how I was raised and what I believe to be truth. I believe it is a choice we have to make to do the right thing, and the right thing is not comfortable, generally speaking. So to me, that comfort thing is like a check engine light that comes on.
Oh, yeah.
Like, bing, bing, uh-oh. I just made like 4 comfortable decisions in a row. This is going to get ugly. So anyway.
You're saying I should have hit snooze this morning instead of hiking? Because that's not.
I did hit snooze this morning. I made it till 4:50.
Don't judge me, but I'm a big Steeler fan, and Mike Tomlin, he has these Tomlinisms, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the Tomlinisms, but he has like these.
I know who Mike Tomlin is, but I have not heard of him.
So he has like all these different Tomlinisms, and they're just like statements that he's made up. Like, one is the standard, and it's like for the Steelers, like it's what that means is that like if you're playing, like if you lose your number one guy to injury, like the person who steps up, it's like, it's not like, okay for us, okay, we're not going to be okay there. No, the standard is the standard. We still expect you to perform in this manner. And he has this other one. I don't need to elaborate on all of these. I'll get to the one that I'm talking about, but he has another one. If you have red paint, you paint the barn red. Like, you know, you're not going to paint it. You're not going to try and paint it green if you have red paint. Like if you have this is what you have, this is what you got. But the one that is my favorite is that we do not seek comfort. You know, we don't seek comfort in the fact that we just lost our star player. We don't seek comfort in the fact that we beat this team and they get, you know, and blah, blah, blah. Like we don't seek comfort in anything. Like we're always looking to be uncomfortable and be in those uncomfortable situations. And I just love that. And it's like my favorite, it's my favorite Tomlinism. And it's exactly what you're talking about. If you're seeking comfort, then it's okay to seek comfort sometimes. Like I love a good cinnamon roll, but and I feel real comfortable putting it in my mouth, you know, but it doesn't mean that I go to get that every day, you know?
Absolutely.
And so, but that's what we're talking about, you know, like you've made a tremendous like body transformation over the last couple of years because you just decided enough was enough, you know? And it's just like you went out and you put yourself in uncomfortable situations and you've made this.
I started to discover just why I made decisions. I started to look at like just the why behind so many different things. And it was a little shocking what I discovered. Like there were so many things about myself that I was like, ooh, man, looking in the mirror, that's ugly. Like I am controlled by all these different things and like I'm not willing to make those decisions for a number of years. It's like, no. That's not okay. Like, but it was a matter of seeing, a matter of self-discovery. Like, I think we're all afraid of ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we're super afraid of what might be lurking in all those dark corners of our lives. Yeah. We're afraid of the change. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've all kind of mentioned that. You know, you talked about looking at yourself in the mirror, and like, I mean, that's always the person that you're always going to have the biggest battle with is just the person that you're looking at. You know, it's yourself.
Absolutely.
You know?
But if I look like this guy.
Yeah, dude, it's not that bad. I mean, looking in the mirror for Sam is pretty comfortable, man. I mean, that's like, damn, that looks good. Look at this hair.
Hair's on fleek today. What up, boys?
Yeah, damn. You need to get one of those distorted mirrors that you have at the carnival. So every time you look at yourself, you're like, oh god. Or one of those filters, like you have one of those filters.
Just an aging filter, man.
Yeah.
Every single day.
That's funny.
Yeah. Gents, it's been about an hour now. This has been just an awesome conversation. And I'd like to, I mean, I don't want to wrap it up, but I know we need to because all of us have places to go and things to do. We got to go get better at our craft in some way. But I just thank you so much for being here and doing this and sitting down with us to do this. It's
I hope it was relevant. I mean,
yeah,
the conversation's relevant.
Yeah, no, it is relevant. I mean, it's the Hometown Hustle. The podcast is just, it was designed to talk to just people who are out in the community doing cool things, whether you're a business owner or, you know, community leader in that fashion, or you're, you know, dominating the real estate game or whatever. It wasn't meant to be real estate focused, and we've had some real estate stuff on here. Not saying that it's bad, but these are the conversations that Dan and I really enjoy. Are the raw, deep conversations just about personal growth and you know, and doing cool stuff. And so I just appreciate you here and having you here. It's just been awesome.
Thanks for having us. This has been an absolute pleasure, boys.
Yeah,
this is great.
Beautiful little spot you got in here.
Yeah, it's nice to like actually be in this room after watching it so much. It's like, the vibe is real.
Yeah,
it's a real place.
It's pretty comfortable.
Very comfortable. Most comfortable I'll be all day.
Yeah, I know. Now that you guys mentioned that, you know, we don't seek comfort, or I mentioned that don't seek comfort. I'm gonna have to get some like really uncomfortable chairs,
or just take the chairs away. Just squat the entire time.
The exercise balls, or just like really just gross like drinks or something, like just to make people. I like the water. Yeah,
really strong cowboy coffee. Yeah, grounds and all.
Yeah, gritty. Ugh. All right. Well, thank you, gents. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.